This is the We Get Outdoors podcast. My name is Rob Yates, I am your host, and welcome to this episode. In this episode, my co-founder Mark Hopkins gets to know Olympian, triathlete and Red Bull sponsored professional athlete Richard Murray. In the episode you will discover how having Richard's bike sold changed his life, how a professional athlete enjoys the off-season, what activity made Richard question his sanity, and how even the best make the most basic mistakes. We'll also learn what discipline Richard feels he sucks at, who Richard's first training partner was, and for some reason, what the summers in Germany really look like. So let's get into this episode with Richard Murray. This episode is brought to you by the We Get Outdoors tribe, where your next adventure is just one click away. You can join this, the fastest growing outdoor group on planet Earth, and become part of a tribe of like-minded outdoor enthusiasts, sharing your adventures, their adventures, trips and insights, and helping to ensure you plan and have the most perfect adventures. Click on the link in the description below to join for free right now.
Today we are so fortunate to have Richard Murray join us on the We Get Outdoors podcast. Richard Murray is a junior duathlon world champ, multiple world champ. He is a multiple ITU world triathlon stage series winner. And not only that, he is a double Olympian. He is a legend in the triathlon world, and we are just so lucky to have him on this interview, in this episode. Richard, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be with you guys finally after the first time now, and it'll be great to chat and to tell you guys about the crazy life that I live, I guess, and about just the love of outdoors in general.
Awesome. It's been interesting trying to get this into the diary. Obviously, I propose a time, and then you come back and say I'm in the pool, and then I propose another time and say I'm out, I'm running, and then another one. We've just got this one in the diary straight after you've just come off the bike. So give us a little bit of an insight in terms of what does a normal week look like for Richard Murray?
So I mean, a normal week, we've got pre-season week, which is actually literally this week. I've just started for 2020. Had a short break of 3 weeks, and now we're just getting back into training. So I'm probably at my lowest point now of fitness of the year, which is usually kind of a tough mental and physical time of the year, but it's always kind of getting back into things. And so the training this week is probably about 10 or 12 other hours of training, which is quite low. And we head through to the next 3 to 4 weeks. I'll be doing more direction of 20 hours that week, and probably about 2 or 3 weeks after that. So January, February side, I'll be doing 25, almost direction 30 hours training week. And so it obviously ramps up as the weeks head on and start to get into 2020. And so we'll do sessions in the week. We'll usually do 6 swims in the week. So we swim Monday through to Saturday. I'll do 3 to 4 rides a week. So from about 200 to 300 kilometers worth of cycling. Swimming side, I'll do anywhere from 15K starting at this time as we head on through to the start of January and February side.
Chief, that's a good workload that you put yourself through. And one of the things I'm always interesting as you look at your workload, and obviously triathlon is such an intense sport. The fact that you have to be world class at 3 different swimming, bike, and running. But you talk a bit about managing your weaknesses and capitalize on your strengths. What does that mean, and how does that play out for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's quite important, obviously, to work on the things that you aren't great at. I think a lot of athletes enjoy doing what they're good at. So you obviously end up overdoing the things you're good at all the time, and you kind of neglect the ones that you suck at, or the ones that you generally just don't enjoy doing as much. And I think that's the one thing, I've kind of had to learn over the years. Coming from duathlon, my swimming, it used to really suck, and now it just sucks. So it's it's getting better, which is good, improvement from terrible to okay. But it's, I always look back, and I remember doing my first Olympic distance triathlon in Germiston. And I think I was 19 odd, and I swam 25, almost 26 minutes for the 1500 meters.
Okay.
And now a couple of years, 10 years odd later, I can swim about 18 minutes. And so it's, well, obviously in season now, maybe not now, but I think it's, to be able to work on the weaknesses, and then kind of tell yourself that the things that you're bad at, you should try and improve. And I think there's a definite that's the one drive I've always had, is to work on something I'm bad at. It feels much more successful than kind of just plodding along with the stuff you're good at. And it's the same thing with I was wanting at the start thinking of going into Xterra or going to be a professional mountain biker, and that was kind of my first ideas of what I was doing. And then I found triathlon, and so that's kind of how the progression inevitably worked. It was kind of just working on the weaknesses.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, and I've had this numerous occasions. I'm on the same train of thought of you, and I love the word how you use actually manage, because I see too many people they forget actually what their strengths are. They put them to one side, and all they try and do is they try and get their weaknesses up to the same level as their strengths. But in reality, and especially in sport, your strengths can be your differentiator. You just got to make sure that your weaknesses don't completely trip you up. And in a sport which I'm active in, which is hockey, which has goals in it, it's a bit easier, because as long as you score one more goal than the opposition, you're going to win the game. Whereas for you, you're competing, you're on your own, and yours is very much a time-based thing. So you really do have to equalize that out as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's that's kind of the interesting thing with triathlon is you don't just win or lose. There's I think it's there's this constant self battle. So I feel like I kind of executed everything that I could. So probably out of 15 odd or 20 odd races, there'll be only 3 or 4 of them, if it's a good season, where where everything goes to plan. And I think even so this year as well. I mean, I had like numerous setbacks this year. I think this year has probably been one of the toughest seasons I've ever had. And I've still managed to be able to find some goodness out of it, regardless of what happened. So I still had 1 or 2 times in the year where I felt like I was in great shape, and I performed. And so I think that's kind of obviously you got to look towards the what can be done in some situations, but it's definitely to work on. I think when I started, I got told if you want to make money in endurance sports, then you got to learn to swim. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be a tough call. And I said, no, how long is it going to take? And the guy said, no, probably 5 years. I thought, wow, that's a long shot. I got 5 years, and I'm like 20 years old, and this is going to take a long time. But it was definitely something I thought, okay, well, I'm thinking in 5 years, if I do it in 3 or in 4, I'll be happy. And it was actually interesting because I was racing in the European Cup circuit. I just started racing in Europe. And I was doing far worse at the smaller races than I was doing at the higher races, which is a very interesting dynamic. But the swimming groups, there's a much bigger difference in the obviously the smaller the field or the more spread out the field, the swim stretches out completely. And then in the higher end races, there's less people that swim badly. So there's literally a lot more top quality, and everyone swims, within a minute or 2 of each other. Everyone comes out together. So it always changes depending on what event you're into, and obviously where your weaknesses are.
Yeah, you raised 2 really fascinating things. And again, I always look at this from when I'm speaking to elite athletes. They always talk about their competition, and their competition is 9 times out of 10 it's with themselves. They know that if they do what they need to do, almost the result takes care of itself. And it's interesting from you as well, listening to you and talking about the mental aspect of it, where you're saying only 3 races, and that's a good season where everything clicks. But then all the other races, you've got to deal with that internal self loathing almost. You're punching yourself. You're frustrated at yourself all the time. How do you manage that mental sort of yo-yo that you go through?
Less. It's interesting. I think humans in general kind of work better. They kind of learn more of negativity than they do of positivity. It's a very weird world, but I think, you kind of, you learn from your mistakes and you go the next time and you make sure that you just don't make that same mistake. And hopefully after 5 or 10 years, you've kind of perfected your mistakes, if you could call it that. And that's kind of hopefully the inevitable way of progressing and trying to move forwards from each race. At the start of the year, you always find it's interesting. The first couple of years, the first triathlon of the year, you always make the stupidest mistakes. You almost feel like you've gone back 10 years in training. How on earth did I run out on, was it a duathlon or something? I remember doing a duathlon. And I ran out with my bicycle with my running shoes still on. And I should have taken my running shoes off. And everyone was screaming at me when I was running out the transition with my shoes still on. And I think that I kind of thought, geez, how did I make this stupid mistake? And I thought, well, you got to kind of reteach yourself the basics sometimes. And I think that's the one cool thing with the sports. It's always progressing as well. I mean, they've got obviously like Super League events now we started doing. And this is kind of keeping us on our toes and making us obviously learn to do different things, which we didn't do before. So yeah, it's very interesting way of looking at it and just kind of just learning from what you've done wrong a little bit.
Yeah, it's really insightful. And again, I love that message you just said about how we basically learn from mistakes and we beat ourselves up all the time. It's an interesting psychology that we have. But a lot of our listeners are avid outdoor enthusiasts, and obviously when they get a chance to hear from a professional athlete, it's really helpful for them. But as a professional athlete, do you see yourself playing a role in society, especially in the sort of outdoor and fitness community? Do you feel that you have a role to play, even though you are a professional elite athlete? Obviously, you are there to inspire other people as much as you are there to compete.
Yeah, I think that's I think the one thing a lot of professional athletes kind of don't realize they're doing to a degree. I think, we're kind of doing it for ourselves, obviously. I mean, it's kind of like your work. I always find that, there's no difference between like a professional athlete and a top accountant or a top businessman or, whatever you happen to be doing at a high level. So I think it's, I don't like to pat myself on the back. It's not like that's necessary. But it's great to be able to, get people. I mean, if we can get someone off the couch and get them to do a run once a week, you've at least changed someone's life in some degree. So I think that's a healthy lifestyle is important, for longevity of your life, and also the one thing. I mean, I managed to turn this one guy's life around. He was like a properly overweight 16 or 17-year-old, and now he started triathlon. He lost like 20 or 30 odd kilograms. And he raced in the 70.3 Zyman half distance triathlon this past weekend.
Fantastic.
Against professionals. And I thought, wow, this guy has seriously, like if they've written obviously like some things in papers about him and things like that as well. He's from Port Elizabeth. His name's Travis McGraw, and I couldn't find anywhere to swim because there were no swimming. I was in PE and I was with a friend of mine, and he said, "Oh no, we know someone who's got a big swimming pool." So I said, "Okay, great." So I went there with my Speedo, didn't know them at all, climbed in the swimming pool, started going for a swim, and he came and asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, I'm training for triathlon." Okay, no, he knows what that is. And then he started triathlon, and all of a sudden changed his life pretty much. So it was, I mean, very cool to be able to do that with one person. And I mean, I'm sure there's a few other people out there that I might have changed their lives that I don't know about. But I think it's cool to be able to, in some other way, assist with getting people healthy and getting people, to just, be outside and go and have some fun.
So let's carry on that topic at the moment, because as I said, there's lots of people listening who have incredibly busy jobs, who only have a few days leave a year in order to get outdoors and get active. What kind of tips and advice would you be giving people to help them get outdoors more to lead as healthier and as active a life as possible?
You know, I mean, this time of the year is probably one of the hardest times to actually do that. Obviously, you know, the colder it gets and the darker it gets, the more difficult it becomes to actually do that. You know, that's probably one of the reasons why professional triathletes always flock towards warm weather, like every couple of months. But definitely, I mean, the one thing now, you know, indoor training has also become quite a big thing. But, you know, it's a way of still, you know, getting exercise and, you know, you can join the community of Zwift as well. I mean, I started to do that a little bit recently, and it actually made indoor cycling, you know, a lot more enjoyable. But I think also joining groups, you know, if you join a group of people that are like-minded, you know, sometimes I find we're running in here in the dark with headlamps on. I think, you know, this is very different to South Africa. You know, I've never ran and trained in the dark. For me, that's not really a thing, you know. And the first time we went running out here, and it was like 5 p.m., pitch dark, headlamps on. It was like almost negative. I think it was like -1 or something, or 0 degrees. I thought, you know, this is pretty wild. Like, this is, I feel like I'm on some boot camp. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I had to learn, you know. Now I went, the other day, we went for a run in the dark with the headlamps, and I thought, oh, well, now I'm used to this.
Yeah.
At the start, I thought, this is mental. Like, what on earth am I doing? Like, this is next level crazy. But the more it becomes what normal is, I suppose, to a degree. Yeah, I think being able to, you know, just when you go outdoors and you obviously you get out there after, you know, the first 5-10 minutes will suck. You know, that's kind of a normal, you know, a normal thing. You know, you're not always going to be super keen or not super, you know, motivated to do it. But if you're around people that are motivated, there's a couple of guys that are a little bit wild or a little bit eccentric or a little bit crazy, then generally that helps with actually getting the job done and going, obviously, you know, to be able to be with other people, make it much more enjoyable.
That's cool. It's a few things just taken out. I think that whole being as part of a tribe and part of a group is a real big motivator, and also enables you to make less excuses because you feel like you're letting other people down.
Yeah, you have to set a time. You have to obviously get it. I mean, you have to set a time and you have to be there and stuff. And you know, all those things get you motivated, really.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you said as well, just is managing around, not making excuses. It doesn't, like, getting outdoors doesn't mean going for a 5-day hike. It can be just a half an hour walk in the park, or get your headlamp on and go for a little jog. I think that's the bit I've taken out what you said as well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. I think a lot of, you know, society, you know, thinks that if it's a half an hour jog or even a 10-minute jog, that it doesn't count. Like, it doesn't count. You know, you got to run for an hour, or you got to cycle for 2 hours to actually warrant being a session. But I think, you know, the fact of actually just going out to do it, even if you go and run for like, or you go and walk, you know, for like 20 minutes or half an hour every 2 days or 3 days, even that's better than doing nothing. So I think I mean, the only time I'll go for a walk, I think there's 2 occasions I'll go for a walk. When I broke my collarbone and I couldn't run, then I walked. And then when I was horribly ill and after like 3 days lying in bed and I'm going a little bit crazy, I'll get up and go for a walk. Those are probably the 2. It's usually with my parents, and he says, Richard is really sick if he has to go for a walk with us. Like, really fucking really sick, and I'll go for like a 2K walk around the block just to keep me sane.
It's more of a mental thing than a physical thing.
Obviously, when you go out, you feel horrible, and then when you get back, you go, your brain's a little bit more active, and you feel a little bit more relaxed. And so I think that's, you know, the one thing that I've kind of grown up with sport kind of my whole life. Since pretty much since I grew up on the farm, we've been outdoors.
So let's go back to the early days now. Born and bred in Cape Town on a farm, as you said. So for those of our listeners who've never been to the Cape, obviously it's for us who either live in South Africa or from South Africa, it's a bit of an outdoor mecca, the Cape. So just describe what it's like being in Cape Town, growing up in Cape Town.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up on, I did grow up on a farm about 25 kilometers from society. So we had about 10 people on the farm. I think when we went there were only about 5 people that were living on the farm, and my parents decided they wanted to build houses and make friends or something like that. So then they built some houses and thought, well, we can get some friends if we build houses. So we renovated some of the stables and stuff with all the cows and all the things used to live in, and one of the big water reservoirs we changed into a rondovel, and some people moved in there. Pretty much just running every day. So I started running when I was about 6 years old, 6 or 7, somewhere around there. And I was running to the end of our drive. We had a driveway which is about 2.5k long, dead straight gravel road. And I used to run to the end and back pretty much most days when I was growing up. I had a dog who ran with me every single day pretty much as well. So it was like my running companion, which was pretty cool. And so I would get up, go running, the dog would be ready, would follow me, dog would run with me for 5k and come back. So we pretty much were, just outdoors racing motorcycles around the farm. My father's a bit of a motorcycle nut. So we had at any given moment, at least 5 or 8 motorcycles on the farm. So I did motocross as well when I grew up. Did some freestyle motocross as well when we were on the farm. And so I kind of grew up doing extreme sports as well. At that time, I was doing mountain biking, and then I found downhill, and I thought, oh, this is cool. So I raced nationals for downhill mountain biking. I did under 16 national champ for mountain biking for 2 years when I grew up. So I was like really digging the mountain biking scene. And I rode for a road cycling team as well for a couple of seasons in South Africa when I was a teenager. So I kind of, my father was always like kind of pushing me to kind of do, to go and do things, and whatever happened to be on that weekend, I would just do. So we would see and like, oh, there's a running race on this weekend. Okay, we're going to go and do it. And then I'd be running that week. And a bit more. And then, okay, cool, there's a cycling race on this weekend. Should I go to cycle more? So then that week I would just cycle more that week. And that's kind of how
very structured.
That's kind of how professional. That's how professional it was at the start. And okay, do you want to come do an enduro? There's an enduro race on next weekend. Okay, cool. I'm gonna ride the motocross bike this week. That sounds awesome. It was kind of cool like that. And there was always different. Always doing different things as well. And going up in high school as well. I also did school sports, so I played rugby, but I kind of stopped rugby when I was, I think when I moved to high school, or just before high school, I kind of stopped playing rugby, and I was like, it was a little bit too much impact and stuff like that, and I was always having things a bit sore, so for the running, it wasn't great. Then soon after that, my father sold my motocross bike because I was crashing all the time, and I was kind of ruining myself on the motocross bike, and he thought, maybe this motocross vibe thing is not going to be good for your endurance sports. And so he's sold my motorbike without me knowing, which was rather upsetting. And so we were never allowed to ride on the roads on motorbikes because my father had a motorbike accident when he was a teenager, when he was I think 20 or something, and he kind of lost his whole endurance career because of it. So he kind of told us never to go on the road with motorcycles. So we always stayed off road. So pretty much grew up on the farm. Yeah, it was an awesome upbringing. In the summers, it was ridiculously hot. We didn't have air conditioning or anything like that. And so we'd pretty much be surviving through the summer and stuff, and in the winter and all that. It was also almost awesome seeing the grains and everything really obviously go up and down through the seasons and everything. So it was a very peaceful, relaxed upbringing. Obviously we couldn't go into the city, so we had very little communications, but it was the day before cell phones. So there was no social media, none of that stuff existed. So it was pretty lucky time to be alive, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think there's a number of us who are wishing we were back in those days.
Yeah, I think that's the one before the internet came around. I think it changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
Pre-internet days, the big difference.
Yeah, so I've got you out and about, and so growing up on a farm, you must have been exploring, camping, hiking out there. So what was your early memories of doing that apart from the endurance sports?
Yeah, well, I think, we were every weekend we were pretty much gone on to some event. So the Western Cape is like renowned for having events pretty much all year. You can, pretty much there's always some exciting thing going on, or something you can be part of. And so I think that's the one thing I always remember going to the mountain bike races and the mountain bike circuit. So that was one thing I really enjoyed doing. And obviously on the farm as well, we had chores and we had things we had to do. So my dad would tell us, yeah, we have to go and lie bala in the thing. So we have to go pull this whole truck up with hay bales. And so there were like 400 hay bales that we had to throw for like a couple of hours. And so we had things like that we had to do until our hands were bleeding and stuff from throwing hay bales. And it was there's always something that needed to be done on the farm, and so we'd have to help our folks with certain things on the farm. And I think it was a great great time to be there on the farm. They sold it when we were about 18. They sold it and moved to the city. But it's definitely fun memories growing up there and being just being outdoors and having fun.
Sounds idyllic. So apart from the sort of the way that your dad sold your bikes and stuff, it was obviously a process of elimination of him selling things off to get you into your duathlon and triathlon. How did you end up getting into that sport or this sport?
I was also trying to be a top runner as well. So I think I had a bit of ADHD or something where I wanted to become professional in everything, where it's a bit difficult to, even hockey as well. I also played hockey through high school. And I played like first team hockey. So I also enjoyed hockey as well. And I think that was, there was a couple of sports that I really enjoyed doing, and I was just kind of addicted to try and do everything. So I started to do duathlon then. So I noticed that in the running I was good. I went to the national champs so I went to Paul Roos as well for 2 years, kind of like mainly for sports when I went to high school. And I went to like the national champs, and I realized like on the 1500 meters I was fast, but I wasn't, top level. So I kind of thought, okay, maybe this track running is like not for me, but I can try the road cycling. And I tried road cycling, and I got pretty far and I did pretty well in that, but then I kind of found it a bit boring. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do road cycling. And then I tried mountain biking, and I raced mountain biking, went to national champs, got my provincial colors and stuff. So I was racing. And then I was good at mountain biking, but I wasn't kind of the best. I was kind of like top 20 type of thing in the country. And I thought, probably not for me mountain biking either as a professional. And so then I found duathlon. I thought, okay, well, I'm good at cycling and running. Perhaps duathlon will be my thing. And then I went and got, I was very successful. So I went to world champs as a junior, raced against kind of all the guys in my age category around the world for duathlon. And then I beat them. And I thought, okay, well, this is my sport. And soon after this, realized that duathlon, I had already kind of won the top of my sport in when I was a junior. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go through to be a senior, hopefully, and then I'll become world champion, and I'll still be good at it. But will that be something I want to continue doing? And so I thought, okay, well, I've got to find something else. And I was then about 16 or 15 odd, and there was a coach in Stellenbosch, a triathlon coach from Germany. And he's got a school in Germany. They've got like a sports school, and he told me, he said, if I want to become successful, I must do triathlon. So I said, okay, well, geez, now I got to learn to swim as well, which is one thing I really hated doing. I think swimming, I tried to swim, and I was really bad. It sucks. Like, it's not, running, you put in a lot of work, and if you're efficient, you can become a good runner. But if you start swimming and you're not efficient, and it doesn't matter how much you swim, you can go and swim like 2 or 3 hours a day and have a terrible technique and still suck, which is really, it's really a little bit demoralizing. You put all that work in to still be the same doesn't seem like a great investment.
You're not selling it to me at the moment.
So I'm okay, cool. And I went through to Germany. So I stayed there at the sports school in Germany, in the south of Germany, and I went there, and it was probably some of the coldest training I'd done in my entire life. Like, it was there in May, and he said, no, the weather's good in May. Okay, and it was like 5 degrees and raining every day. And I was out cycling, and of course, coming from the Western Cape, I didn't have like thermal things like you have in Europe. So I was training in the pouring rain pretty much on my own for like 2 months, which is probably some of the most painful like cycling I can remember. Just being freezing for hours on the bicycle alone. I think that was kind of where I thought I need to find people to do this with, because doing this on your own in the rain really sucks. So from there, I pretty much saw how big triathlon was in Europe. And I thought, okay, well, triathlon in Europe is like massive. It's like 15, 20 times what it is in South Africa. And I saw all these kids. I'll never forget, I went to France, and they had like all the different age categories racing at this one French Grand Prix. And I saw like 1,000 odd kids' bikes hanging from these bike racks. And they were like not even touching the ground. So the kids had to grab their bikes up high and pull them off. And I saw like 1,000 kids bikes. And I thought, wow, I've never seen 1,000 kids at a triathlon in my life. I thought this means something. This means that obviously there's some type of longevity, and then there's obviously finance involved. So that's kind of how I saw it happening. Okay, well, I can go to the Olympics for triathlon, but duathlon you can't go to Olympics. Oh, like I can go to the Olympics. Let's see if I can do that in a couple of years' time. That was, I think that was 2008 or so. Where that year I went to the world champs for both triathlon and duathlon, and they were like, I think a month apart, the races. And I went and I won the duathlon world champs, which I was super stoked about. And then I went to triathlon and I got an absolute hiding, pretty much. So I was racing at the world champs in triathlon, and they were calling me world duathlon champion coming through, like almost in complete last position in the triathlon. And I almost got lapped out. So if on the bike course is a 5K lap, and if you're exactly 5 kilometers behind, they actually pull you off and they stop you. And I was kind of being chased by the group for about 20 kilometers on my own, trying to not get pulled out of the race. And this was in Vancouver in Canada. So it wasn't a short trip from South Africa either. It was like 45 hours of travel to get to Canada. And I thought, I'm not coming all the way here to get pulled off. I ended up still running, I think, the third quickest run split there in Canada. So I still ran well, but it was freezing cold and horrible. And from there, I thought, if I want to be successful in this triathlon thing, I need to seriously do something. It was from the turning point there where I realized I need to literally invest everything into swimming. And from there, it took me about 3 odd years of good swimming before I kind of qualified for the Olympics for London. And I went to Australia, and I joined the Australian the squad there in just outside Sydney, and I spent 3 months training with them. Went to race the first top level races, and all of a sudden I got onto the podium. So in the year of the Olympics, I got 3 podiums, kind of at I would say my first couple top races, and I managed to I was there on the swim. I was kind of in the mix on the swim with the guys, and the groups caught together, and on the run, it was like a complete running race. And then I managed to get on 3 podiums before the Olympics. I thought, geez, this is 2012. I qualified then for the Olympics that year, which was literally like last minute. So, I mean, halfway through the year, I had no idea I was even possible to go to the Olympics. And so then I qualified, and they said 2 months before, you've qualified for the Olympics. So, geez, that is amazing. So I go from from your euphoria type thing to geez, I've qualified for the Olympics as well. So it was a real big fast forward thing for me there. That's kind of the whole snowball effect type of thing at triathlons.
Yeah, and fast forward 4 years from the London Olympics. Yeah, fast forward 4 years from the London Olympics, and unfortunately just missing out on a medal in Rio. That must have been a sort of a very bittersweet pill in a way, though, to see where you've come from, but obviously to miss out on that medal.
Yeah, I think that was, it's interesting, but for London, I went there as a 23-year-old, first Olympics. I was at the Olympic Village in London, and you saw Usain Bolt and saw all these guys being in the village, and I thought, geez, where am I? Type of thing. I thought, this is a little bit much for me. Then came into Tokyo, and I was kind of in the best form of my life, and then I crashed and broke my collarbone in Australia in April, and then the Olympics was in start of August. So I was thinking, shit, can I even go to the Olympics? I'm going to have 2 months. My collarbone's going to take 2 months to heal. And then I'm going to have 2 months to kind of get myself back into shape, which is quite a short turnaround time.
Yeah.
And especially not swimming for, I don't think I swam for 10 weeks or 8 weeks because I couldn't swim. My shoulder was healing. And so I had 2 months, and when I went into it, I thought, geez, I put myself in good shape. Maybe I'm not in the complete best shape I've ever been in my life, but I was in really good shape. And the thing is, my swim kind of held me back. My shoulder, it took me a lot longer to actually get back. I mean, it took me almost a full year to get my swimming back up to speed after I'd broken my collarbone. The muscles don't get used, and there's restrictions and blockages and stuff that I didn't, I had to learn. That's another thing I had to learn about. So it's interesting, but that for me coming forth was kind of like a small victory in itself. I didn't get on the podium. I did much better than I did my first Olympics. So, there's those things to look at. And the interesting thing is I only knew the last 100 meters that I could have got third. So it was the course was weird. The run course was like you couldn't see more than about 100 meters because it was always bending to the right. And so we would go out bending to the right and we'd come back bending to the right type of thing. You couldn't see who was ahead of you. So I was running blind the whole run. And only in the last 300 meters odd, you could actually see straight. And I saw Henry. I thought, oh my goodness, I could have almost got him, but I just ran out of runway. And it was a bit of a crazy other world. There's two Brits that were on the podium in front of us, and then there's 2 South Africans after them, which was quite an interesting turnout. I think the Brits really have things waxed and organized. If you compare like the 2 different organizations on how things work, there's a massive gap, like huge gap. I think for us to achieve that, I couldn't have asked much more out of myself that day. And so I think when you look at that, people always look towards results, but I always kind of look towards, did I do everything I could possibly do? And I said yes. So I have there's no regrets there. There's no sour apples. There's only positivity from that.
Yeah, and that's and obviously we've got everything, fingers crossed for Tokyo, that you can get that gold medal in next year. We'll all be watching out for you. I was sort of interested in a few things around the circuit, the World Triathlon Series. I know you've got 1 or 2 superstitions that you have when you're competing. Do you want to share some of those superstitions and let us know where they come from?
Yeah, sure.
So I know you've got one about punctures.
Oh, yeah. The one the one about punctures, like you're not allowed to mention or even talk about punctures.
It's just not allowed.
Like as soon as you bring up, I think it's almost like, I don't know, when you get, I've got these things, if you talk about something, I haven't had a puncture in ages. What you say. Yeah. And then literally, I kid you not, 2 days later, she had a double puncture. I thought, you know what? I said, I don't want to say you asked for it, but it definitely sounds like it. It sounds like you're playing with fate a little bit. But no, I think that's, I think the thing is, if you ask, I don't know, if you talk about like bad things, if you just mention them, the chance of them happening, I think is quite high. That's kind of how I see it.
It's like the time that you're looking to buy a new car and you find the car and you go, I've never seen this car. And as soon as you drive it out of the garage, you see 10 drive past. It's like, where have they
Correct,
been?
yeah, because your attention to that vehicle apparently becomes quite like hypersensitive.
Yeah.
So apparently the lines and the things of a certain type of car, if you've looked at it a few times, your brain is taking it in. And then when you go past, your brain actually takes that car in, so you notice it.
Yeah. Frustrating,
which you never noticed it before. Like it wasn't I have that same thing. Like I want to buy a BMW 1 Series car now, and I keep on seeing them everywhere. Jeez, this is almost like it's Google advertising in my brain.
They've done it without us knowing.
No, they've got it. Now they've plugged into your brain as well.
Let's start talking a little bit about travel and destinations. But let's just, before we go into you in your personal capacity, let's just keep talking a little bit about the circuit. Where's your favorite place to race, and maybe the one race where you're going, do I really have to go to that location? Is there one that stands out for you?
Yeah, I think the one that I enjoy the most, I think most athletes enjoy, is one Hamburg World Series. That's only about a 3-hour drive from where we stay here in Holland. So that's for getting to, we're climbing the car, we drive there and we're there, which is awesome. Also the crowds, I remember being there when I won in 2012, and there was like 250,000 people lining the street. So I mean, that's massive, in any capacity for a triathlon. And they're pretty crazy, and it's been there every year. So I like the events where they have it there every year, and Hamburg's one of the one that's been there every year. You can you can count on the Germans, so you can, Hamburg, you can generally count on them. So I think that's one thing that's nice. One of the events that I just like going to the most is going to Yokohama, to Japan. It's got to be something to do with kind of 8 hours time zone change, jet lag, and food that's extremely something we're not used to. So waking up and smelling fish and garlic and stuff and noodles and vegetables for breakfast, just, I don't know, it doesn't do much for me. But I think going to the east in general, I'm kind of going that direction. I mean, I know there's a lot of events coming up in that direction, but it's definitely, the jet lag and those stuff definitely takes its toll on the body. And I mean, the Japanese people are awesome. I mean, every time, the one thing that I really like there is how welcoming the Japanese are. They come there, it's like one of the nicest people, and it's so organized. The foreignness of it all makes it quite a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, at least it's good preparation for Tokyo next year.
Yeah, we were there this year for about 10 odd days. I picked up like a GI issue in my stomach. And that put me out for like a month and a half. So definitely learned some things about going to Japan.
Well, at least you got out of your system now. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, it's true.
Couldn't resist. I just couldn't resist.
Yeah, that's I thought the GI things were funny at the start until I was like, I hadn't gone to the toilet for a week, and I thought this is now becoming an issue.
Yeah, it's not much fun.
It was not much fun. No, I was like, this is becoming scary. Can you die from this? I was like, I don't know, maybe you can.
You've heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm just like the first person to die of constipation.
So obviously you allow yourself a little bit of a break away from training and competing, and obviously it's important to enjoy your downtime. So, and obviously with relationships and managing partnerships and relationships and all that stuff. So where do you like to go to enjoy your downtime? What are some of the really good memories and stories that you have from your downtime?
So I mean, the last few years, this year we're in Holland. That's my first year having vacation in the Netherlands. Generally at the end of the year, we finish our races. Rachel wants to be in the Netherlands, and I want to be in South Africa. We want to be with family. We've got sponsor things we have to do. That's one thing with a triathlete. When you have downtime, that's when you have time for sponsors as well. So it's like it's a work holiday in some regard. I mean, during the season to try and do photo shoots and do things that you need to do with your sponsors is a real challenge. End of the season, always, time with sponsors and those things. Sometimes sponsors have cool events and things we go to as well, which is great. Red Bull has got some crazy events, so I can kind of pick off which crazy event I want to go to, which is nice. There's almost one in every country as well. So I can kind of choose which country we're in. I mean, for me, holiday involves not having to look at my suitcase. Yeah. That's, it's people say, oh, why don't you go here? I turned down 2 holidays to go to Thailand this year. So it's been nice to be in the Netherlands and buy some furniture and go mountain biking and the things that I enjoy doing.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice to have that away, isn't it? But interesting you say, yeah, your holiday is also back on a bike.
Yeah, also the swimming. We've been going to it's the first time ever I've been in a swimming pool at 6:30 swimming in the off season. I think I deserve some fucking medal of honor. So, because I was thinking, geez, it's 5:30. I'm waking up to go and swim in vacation.
Like that's fundamentally wrong.
that's some serious wrongness there. Like, I mean, my girlfriend, well, my fiance Rachel, really needs to work. She wants to really work on a swim, and in the off season, you can obviously try new things, or you can do new things and that type of stuff. So we've been here in the Netherlands, and she's gone back to an old swim coach, and I've gone to do some like stroke work and stroke technique training with him as well. So 3 times a week or twice a week, we've got to wake up at crazy o'clock. And we've literally finished swimming and the sun hasn't even come up yet. So we swim for like 2 hours. Like swimming for 2 hours on holiday is quite a thing. But I think it's good. Beforehand, I remember before I met Rachel, I used to have off season. I used to pick up like 6 or 7 kilos in a couple of weeks, and used to just go out and eat the dirtiest takeaways and drink beer, like a literally full on binge. And that has changed to a good degree.
Hard to say.
And
yeah, I was saying behind every good man is a good woman who keeps those 6 or 7 kilos off you.
Yeah, I think that's that's the thing. She doesn't like the fat version of me, so then you have to keep exercising in the off season.
Thin Richard good, fat Richard not good.
Sorry?
Thin Richard good, fat Richard not good.
Yeah, something like I've got a picture of me when I was like 18 and I was like 70 odd kilos. And she's like, Jesus, you almost had a double chin there. I thought, yeah, well, I think the thing is, during the season, I used to go out and party like pretty much every week with my mates. And then I went across to Europe and stuff, and obviously didn't party as much. And then I thought, I don't need to do this every time. So then I literally, during the season, didn't party at all. I said, okay, you can't party 5 or 10 times a year and be a professional triathlete. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I was always getting ill, and I'm like always getting sick. And I'm like, yeah, you go out and have like 10 beers and stuff, and you expect not to get ill. Is you're kind of trying fooling yourself to a degree. So okay, I've got to cut that all out. So in the off season, I've got 3 weeks now that I can go mental. That's kind of what the thought process was. And I thought, okay, well, this isn't healthy now either. So, she's like, I'm going to regulate everything from being regulated, which seems a little bit wild, which seems a little bit much for my liking. But I think it's all in the name of health, wealth, and happiness, as they say. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's the thing. That, and I only party like 2 or 3 times a year, so it's cut back. But that's all good. I think it's got to do with the regulating of not just not over drinking is the big thing. I think just going out and having a good time with mates and friends and stuff. And I think that can involve lots of different things. So I think that's one good thing. And obviously, when we start the season, we used to do nothing for 3 or 4 weeks and then get back into training. And it used to be the hardest slog for the first 3-4 weeks. And now, so we kept up a little bit of swimming. And the worst thing was the swimming. I'd dive in 3 kilometers would feel like eternity. Off season. So hopefully when we get back into proper things next week, a little bit more, it's actually a little bit easier to get back into it, and you don't pick up injuries and niggles and those things.
Very wise. We're going to go on to a quick fire round now for you. I'm going to throw some either ors at you, and you're going to give me your first answer. Are you ready for
Okay,
this?
cool. Yep.
Holland or South Africa?
South Africa.
Duathlon or triathlon?
Triathlon.
Beer, whiskey or wine?
Wine.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Bike or run?
Bike.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Europe or Africa?
I would say Europe.
Apple or Samsung?
Apple.
Steak or salad?
I'm on the fence this one now. I'll go salad now.
Oof. A real South African.
Yeah.
Skiing or surfing?
Neither.
Neither. Red Bull or Monster Energy?
Or Red Bull or Monster Energy? I'll go with Red Bull. Otherwise, I'll lose my full.
Just so your ideal trip, if you could plan, say you and Rachel going off, what would that ideal trip look like?
The thing is, we've got two different ideal trips. So
Okay.
Rachel wants to go hiking in the Himalayas, probably.
Yeah.
And I'll probably go to Bora Bora with one of those tiny little houses that's on the ocean in the tropics.
So where's the compromise going to
So
be?
we need a tropical place that has got mountains. So it's going to have to probably be Hawaii or Maui would probably be the best, because then we get mountains and ocean.
There is a win-win. So if any of
So
our
then you get a win-win
listeners,
situation.
yeah, any of our listeners who've got ideas of the compromise between hiking in the Himalayas and a little beachside place in the Bora Bora, and they want to share it with Richard, add a little comment or descriptive response to this one, and we'll pass this on to Richard so he can save his future marriage.
Yeah, I think Thailand. I think parts of Thailand and stuff also have mountains and ocean.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that could also be a good direction. Maybe it's not as tropical as the Bahamas or Bora Bora, that direction, but it's still definitely good.
A good starting point.
Yeah, we can start somewhere.
Yeah. So all our interview guests, we give them their power 60 seconds, which is an opportunity for them to share with our listeners anything that they would like to do. So Richard Murray, this is your chance to share with all our listeners your pearls of wisdom.
You start. Do you have a timer of sorts, or must I just go for it?
You carry on, and then I'm sure I'm going to let you go longer because I've got a feeling this will be quite insightful and entertaining.
Okay, cool. I shall try and cut it to at least half an hour.
Done.
Yeah, so I think, I love the outdoors. Been a professional athlete for feels like most of my life. I love, obviously, to give back as well. So I mentor a couple of athletes. I'll eventually become a coach when I start to become a little bit slower and maybe don't compete as high as level as I usually do. So if guys are looking for a coach in 5 odd years time or 5 or 6 years time, you know where to look to. I would love to obviously get into assisting our federation in some degree in South Africa, so I can help nurture obviously the juniors, and those guys have a big passion for development and obviously for mentoring as well. And yeah, I've got a love for passion for bicycles and for tech. I've got a bit of a tech addiction as well. So I love bikes and like mechanic things as well. And yeah, so I think that's kind of the type of person that I obviously want to leave a legacy, so that one day the youth and the junior guys from South Africa have something to lean on and something to move forwards with.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And my final question before I open the floor to you is, obviously within sport, we've talked about the Google ads, we've talked about the world's changing. What if you had a looking glass and were able to see in the outdoor sort of fitness world, what do you think is the next thing that's going to be happening in this space over the next sort of few years?
I think participation sports in teams is going to get even bigger. I think that's one thing. Endurance sports are becoming more and more popular, so people want to go further and jump higher and those types of things. So I think the endurance sports is definitely one big thing. If you look at Ironman, if you look at ultra marathon type running or marathons, and I think this idea or the thing of actually being healthy and being outdoors is obviously assisting to people's lives and assisting to people's health and wellness. So I think being outdoors is becoming a bigger thing. Being eco-friendly is also becoming a real big thing. And obviously eating healthy and those things are also becoming massive. So they're obviously tie hand in hand quite well together. So I think team endurance sports will become quite big. Cycling is obviously becoming quite big. It's improving and getting even bigger. So that's kind of where I see it. And from the triathlon side, I definitely think corporate teams as well, kind of like road cycling, where athletes race for teams that race against each other, will become probably a bigger thing in the next 5-10 odd years.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna wrap up now, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of listeners who are going to want to track your progress as you aim for gold and you aim to win the World Triathlon Series in 2020. What's the best way to follow your journey and your progress over the next few years, and also for the aspiring triathletes who are going to want to have Richard Murray as their coach in 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, the best way to follow me is probably on Instagram. I probably post way too much stuff for some people, but my Instagram's at @RD_Murray. I kind of just post anything from not being able to build bicycles to drinking coffee to IKEA cabinets to, you name it. I think those, also some type of training things as well. Obviously, as I move further towards the coaching side in the coming years, I'll be more focused on other athletes and coaching aspects and those types of things. Also, I'm on Twitter as well, also @RD_Murray, and I've got a website, richardmurray.co.za, or trymurray.com. So I think those are the ways that people can follow me as well. Just generally from the things also from Super League and World Triathlon Series, they can follow me online. And I'm also open to answering people's questions. So most of the questions on Instagram that I get through, I go through quite a couple every day. I haven't been one of the people who turns off the messages at the bottom of the Instagram. So you're welcome to shoot me over a message, apart from if we can have your Red Bull helmet or Red Bull visor. Those are a complete negative. You may not have them.
Good. So it's good to know. So there's a filter there. And obviously you've mentioned Red Bull, and I'm assuming that without some of your sponsors, it would make your life very difficult. So they must play an integral part in your life and your world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last 5 odd years, also got a manager, Adam from the UK as well. That's helped me very well. So, some obviously, yeah, as you mentioned, Red Bull has been with me since 2012. So, them connected with Puma as well. I've been with Puma now. Next year's 10 years. I've been with Puma, so they've also looked after me after the years. Haviline and Texaco. Next year, their brand is going to be moving across to Texaco, and they've been great with us the last 3 years as well. They're also based in the UK. BMC, who became our bike sponsor this year, and also for next year for the Olympics, they obviously give me bicycles and great tech support. DT Swiss does my wheels. They're also a new sponsor, quite a well-known bicycle wheel company. Oakley, I've been with Oakley as well since 2010, and I've got a whole bunch of other sponsors as well, SIS, Polar, and my federation, obviously. SASCOC comes to the party and also assists me as well with events and training camps and all those types of things, and as well as Orca as well. They're my wetsuit and tri-suit sponsor. So I've got probably about 6 or 8 odd sponsors that assist me, and anything from tech to filling up my car. Although I don't own a vehicle currently, those are
the one series is round the corner though.
The one series, it's coming, but I want to go electric. But I definitely, without my sponsors, them, I'd definitely be after a bad season. Now it's still nice to have sponsors and them, and obviously financially assisting me. Otherwise, I would have been in the red this season. So it's great to have them behind me.
Well, I'd like to just first of all just wish you real success for this upcoming season, and I cannot wait to watch you win that gold medal at Tokyo. So I wish you all the best for that, and to thank you for sharing and joining us on this episode. It has been very, very enlightening and entertaining. So very, very grateful. So Richard Murray, good luck for your 2020 season.
This episode is brought to you by the We Get Outdoors tribe, where your next adventure is just one click away. You can join the fastest growing outdoor group on planet Earth, and become part of a tribe of like-minded outdoor enthusiasts, sharing your adventures, their adventures, trips and insights, and helping to ensure you plan and have the most perfect adventures. Click on the link in the description below to join for free right now.